Hey, it's Aaron, the Metal Theologian. Alright, it's been a couple weeks. It's been a pretty busy couple weeks around the house. You haven't had a ton going on. Spencer's in town and shit. Might be a cooking video coming if we can, like, finagle that, but we'll see. I might do it another way if not, but, he's getting ready to move away, actually. He's moving to Seattle pretty soon, so, yeah, changes, right? Anyway, I haven't been listening to a ton of metal lately. Like, over the last week or so, I've been starting to listen to a little bit again. And I have all this metal that I've talked about in other videos, too, that's sort of been accumulating. So, yeah, I figured it's probably time to dabble in, like, show a few metal records for a change here. You know, I just got this one, though, recently at Eric Bauer's recommendation. I'll say 45 Grave is a band that, I don't know, I never paid any attention to in the 80s for... I don't know, I just didn't. You know, I was sort of vaguely aware of them, but didn't really care. I don't know, they just didn't grab my attention, really. Sometimes there's a reason, and sometimes there's not. Anyway, I finally pulled this thing out, and, like, I'd forgotten that they had a song on, I think it was the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack or something, but I was like, holy shit, I recognize this song. How's that possible? Especially because I haven't seen that movie in a long time. But yeah, this is a pretty good record. It didn't, like, rip my face off like some things. Like, I wasn't as into it as, well, Death Grips. Oh, I don't fucking know now. There were a couple other ones here. Here's one that I pulled out. I didn't like it as much as this one. I kind of forgot about this one. I pulled this out I grabbed this when I was kind of into this sort of alternative shit, listening to industrial stuff a few years ago. You know, it's the annual new genre for me. But, and I liked it, but, like, I really like it now. After spending a couple weeks listening to, like, Joy Division and Bauhaus, this really makes a lot of sense. And so does 45 Grave, but I like this more. So, yeah, what we're listening to now, though, is, a German band. This is Night Prowler. And, like, with that cover, I mean, I'm not gonna pass on this. I mean, come on, right? Like, that font isn't exactly a minus. And look at those fucking guys, too. That's what I want a band to look like when I go see them, you know? Fucking... This fucking guy right here, man. So good. You know, this isn't really like a tremendous record or anything. It's not fantastic, you know, it's just a 12-inch. But it's a cool piece, man. And honestly, these are the kind of records I really live for. It's the ones that are just sort of, you know, just sort of exist as this lone sort of document of a couple friends having gotten together and played together enough times that it made sense for them to make a record, you know? It's like their legacy for the world, you know? You know what's fascinating about this shit is when you really think about, like, what history, quote-unquote, is, you know what I mean? Like, what... Just fundamentally, you know, before you even start to think about it, before you decide whether you're talking about recent history, ancient history, what are you talking about? You're talking about people's memories. You're talking about what people wrote down. You're talking about what you can figure out based on looking at artifacts and shit like that, right? Especially once everyone who has memory is dead. I want to hype this one a little bit. This is one that Alan from Let's Talk Metal put me on to, you know? This is Danny Praz and the Crash. And I don't actually know anything about these guys. It has, like, this sort of arena rock, like, sort of pomp edge to it. I'll tell you, I love this thing. It's 87. I don't know anything else about it. Apparently some versions had a sticker over the Crash name there. So it's not completely clear if it's a Danny Praz record or a Crash record, but... You know, whatever. That's how it goes. This probably, I don't remember if it's 33 or 45. I think it's 33, but we'll find out soon enough. When you think about what memory is, though, and then look at it sort of in the context, like some of the people we look at, like, in history, you know, and sort of, like, seem like these major, like, important figures in our heads. What's that synth? It's so cheesy, dude. I fucking love it. It's cheesy in exactly the right way, you know? That could have gone one way or the other and sucked, but it's perfect. You know, a lot of times the figures that we think of as being really important in that are just the people who, like, wrote a lot of shit down, you know what I mean? Like Alfred the Great. I mean, he did all sorts of important shit in England, right? But he was also, like, really into, like, education and, like, having people, like, writing his shit down. So we know a lot more about him than just about anyone else from, you know... So, if you look at it from that perspective, and then think about what a record like this could represent in 1,000 years if you're digging it out of rubble, you know what I mean? Like fucking... You know, this isn't the best example, right? But it's like, let's say they do a census of the town, you know what I mean? Like the little nothing town, and Ringo Nishok is there, you know what I mean? And maybe there's some other documents, like maybe he was a teacher or something like that. So a legend could develop where he was like this sort of local figure, you know what I mean? And he left these important documents behind that were like influenced our culture and shit like that. And in reality, like knowing him, like living contemporarily, we know he's just some fucking schlub who was in a band for a while and put together a few bucks to make a private press record. And he was a teacher at a school, big deal, right? But you don't have that context if you're looking at it in retrospect, you know what I mean? You sort of have to like fill in all these blanks just by what you can figure out, you know? So it makes you sort of wonder, like, what these sort of records will look like to people, like, assuming they're not just like destroyed by time, right? But the plastic's pretty indestructible, right? Yeah, that's a big part of why I'm so interested in history, though, is because history is just such a plastic thing, you know? You know, every so often I'll have like a little memory or something like that, remember something, and I'll be like, and I'll wonder if it's true or not, if it's accurate, right? And I'll be like, well, I was with two other people, and one of them was too young to remember, the other one was dead. You know, like two people in my family or something. I don't want to make it really dramatic, but the point is, I go, oh yeah, I'm actually literally the only person in the world who would remember this specific fact, and it's a completely trivial fact. You know what I mean? But the point is, when I'm dead, this is just lost. It's just gone forever. You know, if you think about history that way, it's like, wow, that's kind of amazing we know anything at all. Spencer just walked in, so if I seem a little distracted, that's what's going on. Alright, so this is Danny Kraz, and this rocks. Like that little sort of synth at the beginning there, that makes you think that it was going like AOR on you. But no, Danny fucking goes. You know, I'd never be able to remember his fucking name, but someone thoughtfully wrote it on the thing for me before they sent it to me. Well, realistically, they wrote it on the thing for like their own collection, and then they died, and their kid inherited the record, and one of them sold it to me. Yeah, I don't know anything about this fucking guy though. Here's a record I want to hype a little bit actually, because it's on Scott's label, and I like hyping these. Actually, it's rocks, but Scott's involved. Scott Waters, our good friend. His channel's called Scott Waters. Yeah, this is some band, speaking of nobody bands, right? Called Stairway, I guess? I should probably check this sort of thing before I go in. Yeah, it's Stairway, No Rest, No Mercy. And apparently these are like sort of a new wave of British heavy metal era band, but they didn't actually get anything recorded until... I mean, the date on this is actually 93, right? So, you know, it doesn't look like a modern thing, right? But they don't look like they're in their teens anymore either, right? You know, a lot of times records like this that are of the highest expectations for, it's sort of like, you know, it's cool they did something after the fact, but, you know, the moment was past, you know. But this record is really fun, man. It's a really good record. It has like that new wave sort of, like new wave British heavy metal sort of vibe as far as like the songwriting and sort of the pace and that sort of thing. But it doesn't feel like they're trying to like ape something that isn't really there anymore, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? As soon as you hear a band, I don't know, Saxon comes to mind with some of their like, you know, later 80s records. I don't know if they're a good example or not though. But sometimes you hear a band where it's like, they just seem sort of out of touch. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a good band that you really like, but they made this new record, it just feels a little bit lost relative to what else is going on in the world. You know, AC/DC kind of did that a couple times too, even though AC/DC's sound was so consistent, you know? Anyway, these guys don't fall into that trap. It's a really cool record, and it really rocks. And it does it in just the right ways, you know what I mean? It doesn't try to be heavier than it is. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, man, it just feels right. So yeah. No Rest, No Mercy by Stairway, yeah. I'll tell you my only complaint about that record. I'll have to get this bad boy out. Check out that label real quick. That's what's going on next. Because I gotta hype this record, because I've been kind of freaking out over this one a little bit. That's such a stupid record to be freaking out over too. Wait till you hear it. You're gonna hate it. Oh yeah, the only thing I don't like about this record is when they have that little 35th anniversary there like that. I think that's kind of a bummer. But that's a pretty minor quibble, you know. And it's not like this is like the reissue. And if only I had the cooler original pressing, it wouldn't have that. This is what there is, you know. That's a really cool record. I really recommend it. Now you hear how fucking primitive this is. When I was starting to like get a little bit in the metal mood again, like a week ago, I've been listening to a lot of like Bauhaus and that shit. Although I went on a mini Stevie Wonder kick, another one. So, you know, that happened. But, for some reason, I was just really found myself in the mood to listen to like some like really sort of basic hard rock stuff. You know, stuff that I might have filed in the metal section, but if I had a separate hard rock section, that's where it would go. You know what I mean? Like the section that AC/DC could kind of belong in. You know, I don't have AC/DC in metal, but if you do, it's on the strength of shit like this, right? Anyway, somehow this record has just the right combination of like amateurishness and sort of overall sloppiness and kind of shit production, as well as like genuine sort of rockin' intent and like ability to sort of move the songs forward and just chug along in a really sort of, I mean, really is sort of a based way, you know what I mean? It's like whether you like it or not, these guys know what they're doing. And it may be a little bit confusing to sort of listen to, but I feel like that confusion's all over here and not over here on the record. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I love how they like have their like fucking guns associated with each of the band members. It's so good. And like, if you're interested in Fungus from Mexico, you know, this isn't really the heaviest metal you've ever heard. Their second record, which I also have, is probably a much better... actually, let's pull it out real quick. It's probably... Actually, this is going to suck because I just shifted all my metal records. I hope I can find it. Yeah, this is probably a better record. Sobreditos de Metal, is that what it's called? Sobredosis, sorry. I don't pretend to know Spanish. But yeah, this is a heavier record. It's more like a metal record. It's not like Possessed, you know? But this is more metal than this. You know, this one kind of has some of that boogie shit going on, you know? But this is the one that I've been reaching for. This is the record that came in the mail and I just wanted to hear it every fucking day. You know? So yeah. It can be kind of expensive too. Actually, there's a guy on there's a guy who has a copy that's been on Discogs. I think it is like forever. And like the grading, it says like near mint, and the description says has some scratches, but it only skips in like 2 or 3 places. I'm like, what the fuck? No one is ever gonna buy that. You know, not my problem. This isn't that copy, needless to say. This is so like weak. This could so easily suck, you know? Speaking of records that suck, actually, I have a couple records that suck. I actually came as close as I've ever come to buying records for content. I was at a record show a few weeks ago with someone, with a friend actually, who hangs out in these videos. You might have seen him in Rachel's chat, but I don't know how well known he wants to be. But we went to a record show, and like, there are a couple records there, and like, it's funny, I bought like 5 records and 2 of them were crap. And one of them was this, which I've actually played a few times. I've sort of been keeping an eye out for another copy of this for a while. I'm a little bummed because the spine is kind of fucked up, but you know, somehow I wanted to play it. It has the dollar bill in it and shit. I can upgrade the cover if it really starts to eat at me, I guess. I just don't feel like paying a ton for one, you know? And I don't care that. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, there were a couple records, and I was like, God damn, I kind of got to get these, but I know they suck. And he was like, oh, you can do it for content. That's how you can justify it. I was like, oh shit, I guess I can. So I bought these for content. This actually isn't quite content. If you've been collecting metal records, this is a record you've probably seen on lists for a lot of years. This record turns up on a lot of lists, and it's the sort of record that turns up where somebody has it's mostly just like ordinary crap, but they might have like a few like Venom records that are on neat, right? So you're like, oh, maybe there's some cool shit. So you look a little closer, and this will be in there, and it'll sort of tempt you by it, but you'll wonder why it's only like 10 or 20 bucks. You know, this record never seems to get very high, and people never seem to talk about it very much. And I was looking at it, and it was priced at 10 bucks, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's because this record sucks. Because I've known about this record for 20, 25 years, and in all that time, the price has been right about the same. It doesn't seem to turn up any, well, maybe a little less often than it used to, but it's not like people just figured out that it was great, like they did those Sodom records, and all of a sudden the price has shot up now. So I was like, yeah, this one's probably going to be pretty bad. And it's not terrible, but you did the right thing by not buying it. If you bought it for 10 bucks, you wouldn't necessarily regret it, because it's kind of a good record, you know. It rocks. It's just not really, like, special or, like, particularly interesting, you know. It's like... I'm thinking about the history thing again. What if you tried to reconstruct the history of metal and this was all you had? You know what I mean? Because they're like ancient texts where that's basically what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like the earliest fragment that we have of any New Testament text is a scrap the size of a credit card, right? So it's like, you know, obviously it's not the only fragment. There's a lot more history in that. But imagine you're like trying to reconstruct that and that was what you had to work with, you know? So yeah, why anyone liked metal would probably be a mystery. I don't know. Kind of sucks. It's not really terrible, but you know. But this one is really fucking bad, dude. This one I listened to online. I got curious about this one because I saw it on the fucking Rockadrome list. And it kind of looks like it might be like a cool, like, weird thing. Like it's probably Jesus metal just based on the cover, right? It's total Jesus metal, by the way. So, in fact, here's how Jesus metal this is. There's a song in here called Helter Skelter. Listen to this. Living a life of helter skelter out in the hall. You say everything's a bowl of peaches. Well, you're so cool when you're really on the ball, but you're sweating when the preacher preaches. You speak his name, you play the game, but still it's not right. Maybe it's the crowd you're choosing. Yeah, you're about as hip as garlic dip that's set out all night. Man, like really, really corny Jesus metal. And this record is so bad. I listened to it online because I was curious, and I could not believe it. I was flabbergasted. There's a guy in a black metal band in Portugal I was pretty tight with at the time, and I sent it to him, and he kind of loved it, which is hilarious. With like the evil shit. I was like, I'm going to listen to this all the way through just because I want to see if I can hack it. And I made it, but I was like, that is the most god-awful thing I ever fucking heard. So I saw it here, several years after that, right? At a shop downtown. It was actually a pop-up that was briefly in town when Graveface was looking to move here before COVID. Or not move here, but open a second store here. The original one's in Savannah. So that record turned up, and I was like, it was like 20 bucks. And I was like, dude, I know it's bad. I know it's horrible. Why? You know what I mean? So I passed. Well, that was like another 5 years ago. So I'm at this fucking record show, and I'm pretty sure this is the same copy of this fucking record. It wasn't a different guy selling it. But it just kind of feels like it. I'm pretty sure. I held the other one in my hands too. I can't point to anything specific, but it's one of those, and I'm like, God damn it. 20 bucks. I actually did play it once since I got it. It's really bad, man. I'm gonna put it on for a minute. This would be a good one for the next time I like want to like fucking just be annoying. Like when I played that Wheels of Steel record when I was talking about other shit. This fucking record is so god-awful, dude. You're not gonna fucking believe it. I mean, everything about it sucks. It's really just like an AOR record, but it's not even like a good AOR record, man. It's just... It's no Fungus, that's for sure. See, here we go, though. Like, the Guardian record... This is why I ended up buying the Scepter. The Guardian record is just kind of boring, right? This record, like, actively antagonizes you. This record hates you. I think the Jesus thing is a fucking cover. I really do. Because these guys hate you. God damn it. So it could be building up to something good here. For like a second. Uh-oh. That bass pedal's on the wrong track. Oh yeah. Now we're up Schitt's Creek, dude. You see how Danny Praz used that same kind of cheese but made a rule? And this is just fucking bad, dude. I don't think there's anything in this that I couldn't play, by the way. Maybe like a little deeper in. It's not like I'm good at any of these instruments. But I'm listening to that synth line going, yeah, you know, I learned how to do the thing where you like go over your thumb, you know what I mean? With your, that Bach technique or whatever it is. Here, I'll talk about a good one for a minute. This is a new one to me. I'm surprised. I've never had this record before. I just got this within the last like month or so. Finally found a copy I was willing to pay for. And I don't know, I kind of have a weird history with Metal Church. Like back in the day, I was just kind of put off because it was kind of a stupid name. And then like, I checked out the first one and I was like, holy shit, that's really good. Like once it clicked, it took me a few listens, like when I sort of gave it another chance, like, I don't know, in the late 90s or something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, right on, you know, this is pretty good. Even the cover of Highway Star is pretty good, you know? But I just sort of never really, like, looked beyond that for some reason. I just came back and I listened to that record over and over, and I even got an original pressing of it. Like, I had an Electra and I upgraded it to a private one. But I never sought this one out, so... It's kind of hard to, like, think of superlatives for this record when this is playing. I'm still working on assimilating this record. I don't completely have the song. I really like how the singer kind of has like a Gravedigger vibe to him. He did that on the first record too, but I think with the pace of this record, it just sort of comes out that way a little bit more maybe. Maybe I just haven't listened to the first one in a couple months. It could be that. The other thing I really like about this is how it sounds like a thrash band playing slower. You know, I mean, they were a thrash band, but this isn't that fast a record. You know, and they were sort of a thrash band, I guess. You could argue about that. Whatever. I'm not going to argue about that shit now. Point is... That tends to be some of my favorite shit, like that Raven Bitch record that I've hyped so many times on this channel is like that too. You know, they have that aggression. There are a couple speedy ones when they slow it down is when they're really fat, you know? And this record kind of maintains that most of the way through, so... Yeah, the songs didn't immediately grab me, but I really like the sound enough that I'm going to come back to it till it does, so... Yeah, that was a winner. Like, everyone who's told me, oh, you really need to give that fucking... You didn't even have The Dark, dude, by Metal Church? Usually we have that conversation with Blessing in Disguise, actually, which I also have never owned. This one is great. I got a few from Mexico. This came at the same time as the Fungus. A couple others over there too, actually. But trans metal I'm relatively new to. First of all, what a hilarious band name, right? But this record, like, if you like thrash shit that's like on the grittier side, you know what I mean? Like, if you listen to an Anthrax record and you go, this is a little slick for my taste, then you're gonna like trans metal. Because this sounds as sharp and focused as that photo. And it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect for what it is. It's not like a perfect album, right? I don't want to like make this sound like this is like Black Death or something like that. But this is a very good record. It's a lot of fun. It's gritty in just the right way. It has just the right level of sort of sleaze and shit. Like, it's funny because if it didn't sound so like lo-fi, or if it were a little later, you might even call it blackened thrash. But it's not actually blackened thrash. It just kind of has some of that black by virtue of the mechanics of what bringing that blackness into thrash entails and the resources that these guys had available to them, if that makes sense. So yeah, awesome record, man. Trans metal is really good. In fact, let's bust up the other Mexican ones here too. Here's another one that I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from sort of the hard rocky front. This is one you see on lists sometimes. Blinded by Sound by Elysium. It's better than that. Okay? A tie is never cool. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll talk about this kind of shit too. Like, I'm not like being on like the whole gentleman thing, but like you won't see me wearing a fedora in the house. Because when you walk in a room, a man takes off his hat. You know what I mean? Like if you go to the office, you're wearing a hat, you take it off when you walk into the office. Maybe you leave it on the lobby, but you take it off when you go on the road, right? So that's kind of how I am. So it's not that I'm like fundamentally anti-tie, it's that is not cool. Like this guy thought this was going to be cool, and he was wrong. In fact, this record is a little bit on the lame side, but it's not as lame as this guy's outfit. Which is kind of a shame, because otherwise he was on the right track when he was cultivating his facial hair. You know, I always stand for a mustache over a beard, but how about John Bon Jovi over there too? This is pre-Bon Jovi. If I ever sell this, that's what I'm going to call it. Pre-Bon Jovi, under a fucking phony name and a phony instrument. $500. No, this record's nowhere near that good. Seriously. It's not bad. It's better than this. Hopefully this is starting to get to you by now. So I couldn't pass on this one. This cover is so good. Caronte, I guess. Magos y Dragones, Magic and Dragons. Come on, man. There's no way I could pass on this. Look at that shit, dude. And fucking... Winners all... I'm gonna throw this on. I've had enough of this fucking Scepter bullshit. This fucking sucks, this record, dude. There's things I do for you clowns. No, I'm just kidding, because you know something? If I didn't have a channel and y'all didn't exist, I probably still would have bought this goddamn record. Because that's just sort of where I am at this point in my collecting history. You know, people have this silly idea that, like, if you collect records, it's because you like them all. And all the shit you have, you like. Some of my records fucking hate me. And I keep them around, not because I want to play them, because they need to know who's fucking boss. Alright, this record's a little bit crunchy, but it's good. It's just really kind of rocky. It's not like as epic as the cover sort of would make you think, you know. Gets a little less crunchy as you go in because people are grabbing it by the edges, right? So it's a little rocky. It's a little bit... There's kind of a lot of space in there for what this cover promises. And the riffs are kind of basic, you know? It's a nice groove, but it really kind of has that sort of rocky sound. You know, this is more like that Fungus record than like, you know, again. I mean, that art's pretty high quality. I almost wonder if they stole it from somewhere. Yeah, I don't know, man. 1987. They're Mexican. Yeah, this one's kind of like... This one's probably better than this one. Zebra. This one's pretty hard rocky too, you know. It's probably better than the Fungus on the on points, even though I probably like the Fungus more. But this is a cool one too, you know what I mean? Like these records have been like really good for the vibe that I've been in, sort of looking for sort of the hard rockier shit. So yeah, that's sort of been the diet lately. And what else have I been listening to? Oh, I played this. I really been sort of messing around. I played this not too long ago, fucking back in '72. It's probably my second favorite Bob Seger after Brand New Morning. But Ramblin' Gamblin' Man is a great record too, man. It's funny, usually you can see that like someone's early records were good when like they turned really shitty later on, like Bob Seger did. But he was spotty in the early days too. Yeah, and here's my other fucking hot take for the day. This record, I've played a couple times lately. I got this a couple months ago, just sort of on a lark, because I kind of couldn't believe someone bothered to reissue it, because everyone hates this, because this is Black Acid Devil by Danzig, his techno record. Look at that shit. Actually, I think this is the first time I've opened the gatefold on this bad boy. That is so fucking funny. Here's the thing. I think this might be his best record. Argue with me. And I like Danzig now. I didn't like Danzig when the shit first came out, but I've come around, and you know something? I think this record might be more suited to him than any of the fucking first four. It's definitely better than the fourth one, which is ironic, because the fourth one is the one that got me into latter-day Danzig after kind of not being interested after being a Misfits and Samhain fan, you know. I'm one of those guys who got the first one as soon as it came out, and then when I don't like this and got rid of it. So I had to go and get it again later, which was not as, it cost more. But I'm telling you, man, put aside like your preconceptions about fucking Danzig and about techno and listen to Black Acid Devil again. I swear it's a fucking really good record. It really is. And you can even get it on LP now thanks to Danzig bootlegging his own shit or whatever the scam is around the ubiquitous bootlegs and all this shit, right? Anyway, that's what we've got for today. I'll have another shitty record to make y'all suffer through for the next fucking video. Actually, I probably won't, man. I kind of only do that with metal. Anyway, thanks for watching. I always appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.